There she is, Piper Shaw, the one and only. I don't know how we keep conning you to come onto this pod, but thank you. We appreciate it.
Of course. Happy to be here.
So we're kind of coming in hot here. Like there's so much to talk about, all the stuff that you kind of did in the offseason, and there's so much hockey to talk about. But Joey and I were just having a conversation about Matty Beniers and this Athletic article basically saying, okay, look, he is probably going to come in and have a great season. Here's why. And we just broke it down. But my initial thought was like, he went through the first season, full season in the NHL, crushed it, rookie of the year, winning that Calder trophy. He's just awesome, right? But we're kind of in the frame of mind of like, he's got to be looking different to you at camp. Is he going to come in and dominate? I think Joey and I said our over under on points was like 72. I think Joey was hesitant to take the over.
I think he gave me 75, and I was like, oh man, I don't know.
Maybe that's what it was. I'm taking the over. I'm thinking like 81 points. But you're watching him, you're seeing him, you're talking to him. How did Matty approach the offseason, and what do you expect from him this season?
I think one of the biggest things that people noticed about him last year, and particularly his coaches noticed, and that they really wanted him to change and kind of work on, was building his strength, staying on his skates. We saw Matty get bodied off a puck a time or two. Frankly, we did. He knows it. The coaches know it. And so I know a focus for him was just building muscle, building mass, being stronger on his skates. And I think we've already seen in camp and even in these preseason games, he is visibly, clearly so much stronger on his skates, which allows him to be stronger on the puck and just complete plays more, and so I think that is a huge element for him. That would be probably one of the biggest things I would say he worked on in the offseason, but also it looks like him and his line, they never left. Like they didn't take the summer off. They came back out in preseason, just electric as always, so effective. And it's preseason, so they're not necessarily being shut down system-wise in the same ways and things. But I think it's really promising seeing McCann and Eberle and Matty all back together, like truly they never left. And to your point of how many points will he go for, one of the things that the team has been talking a lot about is just they anticipate this season to be harder for them because they anticipate people are going to take them very seriously. They think that they're, Jordan Eberle has said it a bunch, like we're not going into games anymore where people are like, oh, this is maybe like a night off kind of a game, right? Like it's not an easy 2 points. So that makes it also more difficult for them if they're being taken more seriously as well. So I don't think that counts against Matty in the points, but just something that I've been processing and thinking about a little bit as we watch him in preseason,
Did you, that's awesome to hear. Now you said he physically seems stronger. Have you spoken to him about what he's been doing? Like I've always wondered that. Like obviously, there's trainers and there's staff that are probably doing the whole, robots injecting things into him legally, right? But making things awesome. Like how do players build that strength? Is it just pure time in the gym? Is it like refining how they eat? Have you spoken to Matty about that? Do you know anything about that and what he's done to get stronger?
I haven't spoken to him about anything super specific, but many media members have asked him several times, and he just mostly says time in the gym and time on the ice. I mean, especially it sounds like time in the gym, like straight up building muscle. I would assume diet, goes along with that. If you're trying to make gains,
sure,
you got to eat like it, obviously. But Matty didn't say it. Not that I know of that he's altered his diet in a dramatic way.
When he walked by you, did he smell of protein powder and peanut butter?
Lots of chicken and rice.
He smells like a hockey bag, like they all do. So.
All right. So I did notice that he got bigger because I saw some off-season photos of him hanging out like on a beach somewhere. I'm pretty sure like him and Trevor Zegras are tight. So I was speaking of vacations, you got to tell us, European, tell us about your vacation. Tell us about Paris, finding out you win 2 Emmys while you're in Paris.
You're talking to me. I was like, Matty won Emmys?
Yeah, no, you.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
More hardware.
Oh. No, Jesus. Yeah.
Actually, you won more hardware in the offseason than Matty did. That's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
technically, I guess so. Little different. My 2 Northwest regional Emmys.
Impressive, still
Maddie's Calder
impressive.
Trophy, pretty much the same thing, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I had a great summer, Joey. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I was super busy. I covered the Storm in the summer as well. Just home games, so it's not like an overwhelming amount. And then I also started doing some Mariners stuff, and then people really liked me on the Mariners, so then they had me doing more and more, which is great. But also, hockey is like my focus, and everyone else kind of gets an off season. So, but it was fun and it was good, like experience, and just like to get to be around like a very different fan base, and a very obviously long time fan base as well. So, yeah, it was good. And yeah, I won 2 Emmys. We won for best pregame show and best game broadcast, which is not surprising because, a little biased, but I think we have the best broadcast in the NHL, as many people do. But what was funny is that we beat several other, live game broadcasts, but we were mostly thinking we wouldn't win any of them on the Kraken side because we were up against other Root Sports broadcasts of the Mariners and specifically their playoff clinching game. And we just had like a regular game against the Capitals on a Tuesday night in October and like won. So,
hey, well, that says something about the quality of product you're putting out on a nightly basis, right? I mean,
must be, yeah.
Not
yeah,
calling
but it's
anybody
a
out
team
here.
effort. It's really actually more of a, in my opinion, a testament to our producers and our directors. But obviously, great talent makes a huge difference. But most of the elements you see is not just us. It's a huge cast and crew of people who make it happen. So, yeah. Anyway,
it's
Thanks.
amazing when you really, yes, and congratulations. I mean, when you really look at the roster of, Root Sports and really what the Kraken have done in general, if you look at like a website that lists all the media people, it's like the accolades, the awards, the huge names. I mean, you've established yourself as a force. It's just, you guys do a great job. It's fun. It makes it fun to watch. I mean, it's things have come such a long way. Growing up watching hockey, there wasn't a lot of this, and it's nice to have this multimedia experience. So you guys definitely do it. Definitely have earned that. Do hockey people celebrate with Emmys like the Stanley Cup, or is it just straight on the shelf?
No, they're behind me on my shelf over there. I don't know if you can see them.
Oh yeah, I
could
kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really have a good spot for them. No, I don't think people super celebrate that much. Also, like somebody like John Forslund, who's won like so many freaking Emmys, like he probably just has them in a closet somewhere. So anyway, it's cool for me because they're my first 2 real Emmys. I won a bunch of like the real Emmys for college students, and I was like an Emmy scholar and stuff. So this is cool for me to get to. But anyway, to your point though, that we have a fun broadcast, I agree. And that's what I keep trying to tell all the Mariners fans who've never watched a Kraken game. I'm like, even if you don't know hockey, one, you will, because we have some of literally the best minds in the game on our broadcast and such a diverse cast of knowledge and experience, which I think is really cool. But also it's so freaking entertaining. Like just listening to John and Eddie and JT is a hoot. So even if you don't think you like hockey or you don't know, I was like, Mariners fans, come on, come join us.
Oh yeah. No, so when are you and Allison going to get your own network? Are they just going to give you your own network? Like,
yeah.
What's going on there?
I don't know. I got to write a letter to someone and get the Piper and Allison experience our whole own franchise, I feel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was funny the other night, like we didn't know it's preseason, right? So we're all kind of just riffing a little bit here and there, but we didn't know we were going to come back on camera at the end of a segment. And I was like, had my arm like around her. And we came back and I was like, thank you, Allison. And I like rubbed her back because I was going to give her a hug because we thought we were done. I was like, we might be too close for comfort.
It's family. It's family atmosphere, family vibes. It's
warming
up. Thing. Yeah. Well, there's so much to ask about with the Kraken. I mean, okay, so it kind of ties back to the Matty Beniers thing. Is this team was awesome last year because of scoring by committee, right? A team's team, the best team's team in the NHL. You can look at all the stats; it's a fact. So I'm thinking, okay, Matty Beniers 80 points, but like, is that something that's even possible on a team like the Kraken where they're so balanced, and it's a 4-line attack, and you never know what's going to you never who's going to score, and that's what makes them so great. Is that the same attitude going into it? Not saying that somebody can't break out and have an 80 or 90 point or more season, but still, is the approach to it ain't broke.
No, yeah, 100%. Kind of multiple parts here. I don't think it's impossible for Matty to have that kind of season by any means. Like I said, the team definitely anticipates it to be more challenging, perhaps, to get those points just from their own thinking that people might take them more seriously, more of a threat. So they're probably going to be getting people's best games, which is great. And obviously they were in the playoffs, and we still saw that they could hold their own even at the end of the season against great teams in the playoffs. So I don't think that they should be too worried about that. And I do think that even attack is very much still their system, very much still their plan. I know there were some questions kind of in the offseason about how they would replace the productivity of that fourth line with Morgan Geekie and Ryan Donato and Daniel Sprong, and kind of where they were able to play like around and across the roster and in different situations and how they were used. But obviously right now at this very moment in time, we don't know what the opening night roster will look like yet. They still have some cuts to make. But I think the options that they have for that forward group, I mean, I don't really think you can go wrong. So I'm not worried about it. I mean, you look at Kyler Yamamoto, Ty Cartier, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, Shane Wright. Like, I really don't think they can go wrong no matter where they kind of go with that fourth line, especially in terms of productivity. We already know Kyler Yamamoto can play in the NHL and be effective. And 3 preseason goals for him already as we speak in this exact moment. And Shane Wright, I think there's so much upside no matter which way they go. Ty Cartier, we know he can play a big boys game, right? We already know it. We saw him in the playoffs and he scored goals and he looked like he belonged there. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, like a vet's vet, right? And phenomenal in the face-off circle. Like all of the kind of options that they have, I think are great options. So, and obviously there's questions about like Brandon Tanev, how he fits in there and maybe being on that fourth line, So again, I don't think there's anything to be worried about.
No. And that was it's like, for the people who are new to hockey, that are Kraken fans, and it was tough for me to see guys go, right? But at the same time, that hopefully they're going on to a better situation for them personally. But, to see why they went, right? And who was coming in to possibly replace them, the young guys, bringing some new guys in. Ronnie Francis has got such a just good. I mean, he's just good. I'll just leave it at that. So like filling in the gaps, filling in all those holes and making things really better, what seems like on paper. I'm going to ask you this is who's going to be the surprise is there going to be a surprise that makes the team? Is there going to be a surprise that makes the team? Is there going to be anything like that anything that stands out that makes you go like, oh, well, look who's sticking around. Do you get a vibe for that?
No, because I don't think anyone is a surprise because I just feel like they have so many good options, both for their defense. I mean, I could see them maybe, keeping Riker around, or they have options that all seem like good options to me. There's certain options that seem like, oh, that's an investment in your future and you want to get them playing. I could see perhaps Devin Shore making the team. And maybe being an extra skater. I don't think people are talking about him much, but that could certainly be a piece. Because the other thing when we're talking about young players like Shane Wright and Ty Cartier and Riker Evans, the other thing is like they want them to play, whether that is in Coachella or in the NHL. You need these guys to be getting games. So I don't foresee a situation where they want to bring any of them up or keep them on the team where they are going to scratch them a bunch. You know what I mean? So I can see Shane Wright, especially with that AHL clearance, not maybe making the team at first because they want him to get some games in the AHL and have him ready to go. But that could be really any of them, like I said. So I could see maybe like Devin Shore if they kind of need someone that they want to like rotate in the name of getting young guys games, but have somebody with experience to kind of step in. That would, I guess, would be my surprise.
Do you think that move to get him cleared to be in the AHL, Shane Wright, takes some of the pressure off of management to say, well, you know what, we can wait a little bit and give some other guys a chance? You think that's going to happen?
do think it creates that option for sure, which is great for the organization. It's also great for Shane, though, for the same reason that I said, like, you want him to play. You want him to play. And of course you want him to be ready for the NHL. And of course he wants to be ready for the NHL, and he doesn't look out of place out there. But ultimately, if your option is somebody that is more of a veteran seasoned player who is going to be more effective night in, night out, especially at the beginning of the season where the schedule is tough. The beginning of the Kraken schedule is really tough. I don't know. So I think though it's great. It definitely gives them an option. And ultimately, I believe they want him to play. So if he makes the Kraken team, hopefully he'll play. I think that's the intention. And if he doesn't, it's because they want him to play, get some games. And he had kind of a spotty year last year with injuries and playing in all these different teams and organizations. Like they threw him all over the place, mostly because of circumstance, not on purpose. But I'm sure that there's some appeal for everyone of some consistency for him. Of course there is,
Right. This is so much promise. It's just, I love seeing that kid because I'm just ready to see him do what he did. Great. Right. So like, it's awesome to have that talent pool ready to rock at any time. So at some point we'll see him. And after watching camp and what's been going on in the preseason, so, there's some fan favorites that left the Kraken, right? Who is going to be just in pure personality wise from some of the new guys and the young guys, who from talking to them do you think has the biggest potential to be like a new fan favorite? It might be a tough one.
So many, honestly.
Besides Yamamoto, that's a good.
I would say
Washington.
Yeah. I was gonna say he actually has a very good personality. Not actually like it's surprising, but he is freaking happy to be here. He is happy to be here.
Right.
He's very comfortable with himself too, which I think is good. Especially, I think he's like 24. So, and granted, he has played quite a bit for being 24. It's kind of weird to think he's only like 2 years older than Cartier, but that has played that many more games in the NHL. I think he definitely has the potential, and who doesn't love the hometown kid story? I also think Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, he is a character with a phenomenal story. He made his NHL debut when he was 29 years old. That's like unheard of, like 29 years old. And when he first started playing minor league hockey, it was in Sweden, and he couldn't speak any English or Swedish. He couldn't speak anything other than French. And he told me that he almost quit when he was a teenager because he went to Sweden and he couldn't communicate with his teammates or his coaches. He didn't know, like, when they would call out a drill, he didn't know what they were saying. So he would just have to watch and see what they were doing. That's what he told me. And he said he almost wanted to quit back when he was a teenager, and he called his mom and she told him, "You're going to show up early every day and you're going to leave late every day, and you are going to smile all the time. You're going to smile at your teammates so that they know that how bad you want to be here. You show them if you can't tell them." So, and he said that's the best piece of advice that he's ever gotten. And then at the same time, he started like grinding to learn Swedish and just to be able to play. He never even thought he'd be in the NHL. And then the teams that he cracks an NHL roster at 29. And now he's played for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Colorado Avalanche. And he was an expansion member of the Vegas Golden Knights. And now he's here. Like, it's kind of sick. Like, it's a cool story. Plus he was with Hack in Philly, and he's got a great personality. He's a cool story and a great personality. So
he's a no bucket warming guy too, which I always gravitate towards. So no bucket warmies. There's a video of him doing like some random spin moves up against the glass pregame. And I'm like, I don't know what he's doing, but I like this guy's energy.
Yeah, he's cool. He's cool.
Okay.
Also, he speaks Swedish. He's French, and now he's in Seattle. So like,
yeah, he speaks 3 languages completely fluently. He's also funny. Like on media day, one of the questions we had was like, on the road, do you have a favorite restaurant or like market or city that like you love to eat in? And he was like, I just love the really big cities because I like to find really tiny, weird hole in the wall spots. He goes, but my teammates never want to go with me. Like, that's just funny.
I need to hang out with this guy.
Yeah,
he's like,
guy would go and grab some food restaurants, and I'll just go by myself and go get random takeout from somewhere cool. I'm like, go off, King. Like,
he's from just outside of Paris, so like that's what you do. It's like Ratatouille. You go to those spots, right? It's not like going to Burger King or whatever. So,
but also to be fair, a lot of professional athletes in general only like to eat the same kind of things because they know how it impacts their body, especially when they're on the road and have to play. So I will say I don't fault anyone who doesn't want to go try the new whatever it is when you're traveling. because their bodies are their jobs. So
that's what I was talking about earlier was like, I'm 44 and I'm still figuring out, man, I shouldn't have had that third beer. Because I'm a little tired today. But like, as a professional athlete, that's why so many athletes have, they got the trainers, they got the team physicians, they got the diet at the arena, like all that, and they're probably at home too. You've got a hardcore schedule too. Like, do you go into like any? And I'm being serious. Like, do you go into like sort of season? Okay, look, this is my Tuesdays are always this, my Wednesdays are always this. I got to make sure I go to bed at the right time. Like, do you have a sort of like a training camp for broadcast?
And how many times do you have to say no to JT Brown trying to hand you candy?
I don't often say no to JT when he tries to hand me candy, because one thing about JT is he knows what he likes and he lets you know what he likes. In fact, I got in a little spat with him on the road and morning skate one time because some hotel we were staying at had a mac and cheese on room service that he's like, it's the best thing. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure I'm going to get for lunch. And he's like, you have to get the room service mac and cheese. And I was like, I don't really like mac and cheese on a game day. It just kind of like, it's like a little heavy, but not enough at the same time. It's just not the kind of thing I like on a game day, to answer your question, Jeff.
Right.
And he was like, no, it's the best thing ever. You have to get it. And he's texting me pictures of it later. And I get to the rink. He's like, did you get it? I'm like, no, also, sorry, I'm not trying to spend $65 on Four Seasons mac and cheese, respectfully. Anyway,
sports per diem.
So JT is hard to say no to, though. He lets you know if he wants something for you. Anyways, to get to your question, Jeff, about like routine on the road, no, I don't, and that's actually a goal of mine because it's.
You're honest. I like it.
It's a grind.
Awesome. Yeah,
it's a grind. Like we're checking into hotels at 3 a.m. Time changes constantly. Also, it's winter, the whole time of hockey season. So it's freezing cold, and the hours are obviously like I'm on almost the same schedule as the players, like when we're on the road, obviously. So it's definitely a grind. I'm not quite built for that. And I don't have trainers and nutritionists.
Right.
So I just started doing athletic greens under Allison's recommendation because I had kind of like a health scare at the end of the year last year from not taking care of myself.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Because, so anyways, that's a priority for me. I'm like, I at least need to be walking and like moving beyond work movement every day on the road. And making sure I really am drinking water and taking care of myself. So that's a goal, Jeff. Thank you.
That's what. So you're in a good spot now, health wise. Like since whatever happened.
Oh, yeah. I had like a neurological thing. Okay, yeah. This is not private. I don't care. It's just probably more than people care to know. But yeah, I was working an Oilers game, Kraken versus Oilers. It was towards the end of the season, and I couldn't see anything. I was getting like quadruple vision, and my arms were going numb, and my feet were going numb. And I was losing consciousness in the middle of the game.
Oh my God.
And I'd been feeling not well for a while. Like I wasn't losing consciousness. I was losing I couldn't see anything. And it was very odd. And then I was like, oh, I haven't eaten anything except for one bagel a day for 4 days and way too much coffee and no water. But it's a grind. It is a grind. And also one more thing, not to just rattle for forever, but
no,
my role in hockey is very different than most reporters' roles for other sports, because we don't have, like in baseball, they have like bullpen and media availability right before the game. Ours is in the morning. So like a hockey game day is literally 7 a.m. till 11 every night. And like, that's your whole day. I have maybe 2 hours of free time, basically, to eat, to shower, to do anything, to work out, to prep. That's the other thing. I have to prep. Like I have to do my work, right? So it's not just the game. So it gets very hard when you feel like you're like on the hamster wheel of like, what's the easiest thing to sacrifice right now? Probably spending an hour to go get a really well-balanced meal instead of what I can do and eat while I work, right? So I just need to be more proactive. I think if I'm more proactive about it, hopefully it'll be good.
Well,
anyway,
thanks for sharing that. I mean, I know it's not easy, but I can tell you this: work adrenaline is a hell of a drug, and it's something like, I was in media for a long time, not to that, extent, but you get fired up. You love what you do. You're passionate.
It's hard to go to bed. Like Allison and I talk about it all the time. Like you get done at work at 11, and if you won, it's like, woo, and it's crazy. And also I'm drinking caffeine at 5 o'clock at night because I have to be my most on at 10 p.m., but also at 10 a.m. Right. So it's like this, and it's like impossible to sleep because you had too much caffeine and you're on and out of adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hey, have you caffeine wise? So, I'm much older than you are, and I've experienced all that sort of stuff in the past. And yeah, you gotta take care of yourself, like the mental health of getting a little bit of exercise in. And one thing that I've learned is like the consistency. And I don't know if you know this, but I'm not ripped or anything. But like the consistency of just like doing something for 10 or 15 minutes a day mentally makes you feel good. So like, I don't, but then maybe you might be like, well, I can't work out for my hour workout, so I'm not going to do anything. So at least,
Well, and the other hard part is I have to be like all makeup and hair all the time. So I can't be sweaty. What am I like? Okay, I need another hour and a half to recurl my hair. Yeah. It's so lame.
Anyway. No, but it's true. It is true. So, okay. So that means Joey and I and the rest of the Kraken Pod fam and the Kraken, fandom, we need to make sure to check on you to say, hey, look, did you eat something good today? Are you ready to rock? Do you need to have some of Matty Beniers pasta? Like, what do you like? So we're going to make sure to keep on you about that. So that's good to hear that you're taking care of yourself.
We're going to be like trending on Twitter. It was like, is Piper Shaw okay? We're like, we're just making sure she's okay.
I don't need okay. I don't need people to like worry about me too much. Like, I'm okay. Me and Allison also said like, we're going to try to do some yoga on the road because she's a certified yoga instructor and a certified personal trainer.
Take
but she's busy too.
She
has the same thing as me. Yes. So we're going to try to like even find some yoga gyms or just like be more intentional about stuff. So it'll be good.
We need like analytics with Allison, but just like on the healthy side of things. That makes a lot of sense. If it makes you feel any better, I don't think like Jeff, you're mentioning your age really quick. I'll tell a really quick story. The same thing, Piper, happened to me, but I was 21, 22 years old. I was in the Navy, and long story short, like crazy hours, was not eating the best, caffeine 24/7. And one day I'm at a mall with my friends and everything around me is like tunnel vision, just kind of closed in. I had no idea where I was, like completely blacked out. I woke up in the back of an ambulance and I had pissed myself. I was like, what the fuck? Like, yeah. So
I was like walking around kind of pledge,
I was 21 years old.
Yeah, I was like, I cannot feel my hands right now.
No,
I can't really see anything. And now I can't feel my knees. I was like, this is not good.
Yeah, you got to carrying like healthy snacks on you too is huge, because ever since then, it's like if I even start to feel any kind of whatever, like stressed out from working all the time, quick snack, good to go.
Yeah, and I'm so bad about water. That's like my biggest thing. Like I need to, like water is Anyway, enough about me.
Yeah, Liquid IV has saved my life. This is, no free ads, but Liquid IV is delicious. I literally won't drink water without it. I'm trying to right now. It's disgusting. It tastes awful.
See, for me, it's not even that. It's like my body doesn't like crave water. I think it's because I've been so chronically dehydrated my whole life that it doesn't tell me to drink it. I don't know. Anyway.
No, you see, the thing is I kind of grew up the same way with the water thing, but since moving to Louisiana and living in like the deep, like the swamp, right? Like you just have to drink tons of water. But if I still lived in Michigan, I wouldn't drink a lot of water. I just know what that's like living in like that sort of, winter dryish climate. It's like that's the last thing you want to do, especially at an ice rink when you're not playing hockey. Drink water. It's just something about that. So I get it. So
I agree.
All right. So healthy Piper this season. All right. So we talked about with the Kraken, biggest, who's going to be the like the new fan favorite. But let's talk just in general. You've seen the guys. You've seen them come back from a little bit of a summer vacation. Who is going to be a young guy or a vet or somebody that we really know? Who's going to have the biggest jump? Who's got the biggest potential for a jump in their game this season?
Andre Burakovsky.
Let's go.
Yes.
I gotta be Andre. I mean, it's also when you really think about even more impressive about what the Kraken were able to do without him. Like they were able to get to Game 7, almost to, the conference championship without him and without Jared for stretches as well.
Yep.
That's such a testament. Again, obviously the depth is the strength. That's the story. But I think just getting Berkey back is huge. And something that Coach Axel has always talked about even early last year, and I asked him about it again the other day, is how critical he is to the power play because he's so versatile. Like he's so good at getting clean zone entries, especially on the power play, which I'm sure many will recall. what's more frustrating than watching the Kraken's power play when they can't even get set up, right? You're like, oh,
Right.
come on. They can't even get in the zone to get set up. So I think that is a skill that is so cool to get back to the team, especially the special teams. But he can do it on 5-on-5 too, right? Like he can shoot. Also, he can pass. Like, so I just think having him back is huge. And I also would say he's ready to go. He's so freaking happy to be back. And it's hard to say because he's obviously kind of a star for the Kraken in terms of what a star player means.
Yeah.
But they missed him. And I think he's happy to be back and he's going to light it up. That's my prediction.
That was the biggest. I think it wasn't really losing. It was the fact that we lost without Berkey. You know what I'm saying? So happy that we went so far in the playoffs last year, but like just watching him become one of my most favorite Kraken players and just players in general. Like, you know,
he's goofy too. He's pretty cool.
He's
odd, but good.
And, yes. When they were like, hey, what'd you do? And he wrote rehabbed, but he used 1B. So it was rehabbed. And I was like, I fucking love this guy.
Yeah. He's silly. Like even last night at the game, he was like warming up. They're always like, if you ever watch the broadcast and you see me kind of doing like a hit outside the locker room at the beginning, sometimes you'll see the players like lined up behind me. Last night, he's walking around giving everybody fist bumps. I've got my mic in my hand and he fist bumps my mic in my hand. Like he's just fist bumping everyone, which is not normal. Usually they just kind of leave me be because they don't know if I'm live or if I'm going to be live. He doesn't care. He's just fist bump the mic. I'm
right
like,
to the mic.
I'm like, Berkey's back.
It's his world. We're just living in it. General team stuff. Okay. And this is just from your point of view. Okay. Where do you feel the team has most improved since last season? You mentioned the power play. We saw some shootout action, which was so. What do you think the team has improved on the most in the offseason?
It's hard to say based on preseason because the combinations are what they are. But I will say, kind of going back to what I said earlier, but I think two lines in particular literally came back like they never left. The Gord line, we know how critical they were. Ellie Tolvanen, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Yanni Gord last year. I think that they honestly have another level, especially we saw Oliver's numbers go up as the season went on, but he's another player that really could have a breakout season. I mean, he and I wouldn't say breakout for his career, but for the Kraken potentially. And those three, when they were playing in the preseason, like they looked literally like they never left. Ellie Tolvanen had 2 goals in one of the preseason games. So I think that line, I wouldn't say, it's not like an improvement that like Hack or Ron or someone made. I just think that they absolutely can light it up. I also would say going back to that's second in quotation marks line of Alex Wenberg, Jaden Schwartz, and Andre Burakovsky. We didn't even really get to see that line very much at all last year because Schwartz and Burakovsky were both battling injuries at various times. So they kind of toyed with that line throughout the season and found different combinations. And I think Wenberg is such a versatile player that it's nice that can give them some options with that line when needed. So is Schwartz obviously as well. Burakovsky, I don't know if I'd say if he's as versatile. He's highly skilled in like what he does, which is several good things. So I would say that line probably is a huge upside and an improvement. Just having all of them healthy and being in viable combination, that's an upgrade. That's absolutely an upgrade. Also, we talked about the fourth line before. When you're talking about those options that you could potentially have on the fourth line, none of them sound bad, right? That all is an improvement. I mean, maybe not an improvement when you think about Daniel Sprong and the season that he was able to have, but in terms of like a consistency and certainly talent, I think that fourth line could be an improvement as well.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
I think, I'm glad you brought up Bjorky, and I think that he needed a season to shake the Columbus funk off. and I think that I think it's a thing. And I can say that because I'm basically almost from Columbus, right? So I'm being from Detroit. So like I can make fun of Ohio. And I lived in Cincinnati for a long time. But for real though, I think that he kind of just scratched the surface of what he can be. So I like what you said there, and I'm officially jumping on this bandwagon of he's having his best year in the NHL with the Kraken this year, which would be awesome.
Which is saying a lot because he's had some great
He's had
years
some
in the
great
NHL.
years.
It's
Yeah.
crazy thinking last year was like, oh, not that great for him because it was still really freaking good.
Yeah, he bought into the team. He bought in, and he didn't have to like be the lead horse, you know. So, you know, this year maybe he's got a little more comfortable of a role, and he feels. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Either way, I mean, the guy's a stud. So happy.
No, but the point about Burakovsky is great too, because especially like in the playoffs with Oliver Bjorkstrand, like look what he did against Colorado. I was actually laying in bed the other night doing like the Wolverine meme where I was like just looking at my phone, just watching old Kraken games. And I was rewatching one of the Avs games, and I'm watching Bjorkstrand just completely go off. I mean, he could have had like 5 goals in that game alone. And I think we talked to you about this in a previous episode about how he was disappointed by the way he performed and not up to his expectations. So I think if
he still talks about last season like it was a personal failure.
On the shoulder,
like,
baby.
what?
I love it. Yes, I love it. Absolutely.
So, all right, I think of, okay, the power play and the shootout, right? What do you think needs improvement? What are you looking for? We talked about what has been improved, but like what still needs work? What do you see? What are they working on a ton in camp? We saw the shootout the other night and it was still, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. On the power play, let's start with that. A couple nights ago, Hack kind of made a comment that he felt like people had been a little bit unfair about how they discussed their power play last year, because he felt like their power play always was really doing, or more often than not, doing the right thing and just not quite getting it to go. And I hear that and I totally understand that, but ultimately, just like he would tell you, what matters is converting. What matters is the 2 points. What matters is, it's not necessarily about the statistic. It's about converting in the moments that you need to, that can get you those 2 points. It's not like you need every single power play for forever, but had they been able to convert more effectively multiple times throughout the season, but obviously in the playoffs as well, it could have been a difference maker, but should have, would have, could have, whatever. I think, like I said, getting Burakovsky back is huge. I also think they've been trying out some of the young talent on special teams in camp and in some of these preseason games, which is normal. I don't know that I would expect Riker Evans to be quarterbacking the power play in the regular season, but they looked very good. I don't know how much people have been tuning into these preseason games, but like the last game, as when we're talking right now, they were playing the Oilers and they looked good. Like Cartier and Kyler Yamamoto, even though Kyler's new, but he's not that young. It's not like he's a baby, right? But
right.
And Riker Evans, like they looked good. They also looked good on the PK. So I'm optimistic in the addition of getting Berkey back. He always was a key for them there. Also, Vince Dunn, I think that is, we're very happy that he has, signed his extension, of course, but that was an area that he wasn't killing it exactly in the playoffs, right? Like, and being the quarterback on the power play is huge. It's very important. You don't necessarily dictate everything. It's not your fault if you're not converting. That's not the case. But I think if he can find a little bit of a new level to his game there, that could make a difference for that unit potentially. And that's something that he says is a goal of his and something that he likes to focus on and grow his game. Shootout. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
How do you do that?
What?
How do you fix it? Like, how do you
the shootout?
The big cat out there. I mean, that's a fan favorite.
Yeah,
like,
that's a great idea. Yeah,
yes.
Put the big cat out there. Yeah, it's very odd because you can see like we got snipers on this team. We have like the silky mitts of Jordan Eberle have struck many a time, right? Like, so it's kind of it is odd. I don't know. I haven't talked to the guys like about it, but I almost wonder like if now there's like an in your head thing about it after you haven't really got it to go, right?
We need like a sports psychologist to come in. We need some like new era kind of way to come in there and talk to these guys. Like, all right, we got to get out of your head. It's shootout time. You have the skill for it.
Yeah, and that happens to every professional athlete at different times, no matter. I mean, that's how Oliver kind of generally feels about last season. He's like, oh, that's weird. I don't know what. And then you kind of get an icky feeling about it. So I kind of wonder if maybe there's some of that around the shootout, because it's not like we don't have skilled shooters. I don't know. Maybe a different lineup could help. I don't think that Adam Larson is ever going to be the person that they're going to line up and send out there. But Yeah, I don't know. They always kind of go with the Eberle line, the Beniers line, right? First, and I see why. It makes sense, but yeah, I don't know. I also will say though, in that preseason game, Campbell was playing out of his mind for the Oilers. He played a phenomenal game
Oh yeah.
in net for the Oilers. So, I don't know.
It's also one of those things where it's like, at the end of the day, it's also a preseason game. The game is
Right.
already over 4-1. Both teams agreed to go to a shootout. It's like nothing is, I mean, let's be honest, nothing's really on the line here, right? I mean, like you're getting some practice in. You're not going to go out there with
Which
the
is why
intention
they're
of
doing it.
sucking,
Yeah.
but you are going out there. I mean, it's really just extra practice. Now you're just doing it against another team. So at the end of the day, I'm not taking it, for like, oh, this is what it's going to look like for the rest of the season. Like you mentioned, the skill is there. I mean, like Father Canner, that guy can light the lamp all day. Eberle, Beniers, all that stuff. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. Until a game
until
is decided by shootout,
yeah.
you know, and you're like, oh, now I'm a little worried about it. Maybe.
Hit you up, Piper. I'm worried. Yeah.
I just look up the stats from last year, and for some reason, whenever, and this, please don't tell Jordan this, because I know he would take, if Jeff from the Kraken Pod said this about him, he would take offense.
He knows about
to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but every time he's gearing up to take that puck from center ice for the shootout, I'm like, oh man, he's just gonna miss again. But I was looking at the stat. Look at the stats. Is he the all-time leader now? I don't know. He's like he's 25% is what I'm seeing. He's a 25% shootout. He
always goes. He's always right there.
So
and I believe, I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure this is the accurate truth. Someone is allowed to fact check me, but I believe the two of the shooters that have won us shootouts were Jonas Donskoy and Ryan Donato. Isn't that? Yeah, and I remember the Donskoy one specifically because shootout goals don't count as goals statistically.
Yes.
They don't, so it was when Donskoy in year one when he was so snake bitten and it was just like nothing would go. And then he finally gets a game-winning goal in the shootout, but it doesn't count as a goal. But it got the extra point,
It wins the game, right? Team
yeah, he got Donskoyed. So
yeah, he did.
It happens. So there's so many other questions to ask here. I think I'm going to kind of go for just one of the big ones, which is what are the team's expectations? And that could be Haxtell, that could be the players, that could be Ron Francis. What are the team's expectations internally for the 2023-24 season? Is it Stanley Cup or bust?
Yes, I think, but I also think more when I've asked them, they just say they want to go further. That's the goal. They also, I think they feel like they could have been even better in the regular season than they were, which ultimately what matters is getting to the playoffs. But I think that they feel, rightfully so, that they should be a top team in the Pacific Division. They should be a team to beat across the whole league. They should be sitting in the 1, 2, 3 spot in their division. It shouldn't be, oh, we squeaked in. They don't want, they want seeding. Like they're fighting for that now, and they feel like they are good enough to do that. And I think we all agree that is true. They do say, like I mentioned earlier, like they definitely anticipate that teams are going to be harder on them. They're going to take them more seriously. They're not going to play their backup goaltenders every night, against this team anymore. They're going to have to fight. And they did last year. It's not that they're not capable of that, but I think that teams now, they know, they're like, oh, and also the Kraken are so hard to beat, like we know, because of that depth and just that wear you down mentality. They work so hard, and so teams have to know to beat them, you have to work literally harder, it's a grind of a season, like we talked about. So I think that's that stamina in games, but throughout this season becomes more important for the Kraken. That's what they say. They know that because of how they play. But I think the expectation is they will go to the playoffs. That's what they want. They will go to the playoffs. They will be at the top of the division, near the top of the division. that is a goal for them that they believe is not unattainable. They think
Absolutely.
that is, and I agree. I totally agree.
Oh,
especially if you can get a goaltender like Philip Grubauer to work like that, like he did at the end of the season.
Yes,
it's great.
Perfect transition. I was going to ask about that next, but also too, the journey to dominate the Pacific Division starts night one when we spoil the banner raising in Las Vegas. That is going to, I'm betting on that. I'm literally going to bet on that to happen. And that is a lock. That is happening. The Kraken are going to exert their, we own this conference, and they're going to spoil that Golden Knights opener. All right. So, but I'm glad you said Philip Grubauer, because we haven't talked goaltending at all. You know, he ended the season on such a high note. Like it's been a roller coaster. It was a roller coaster for him up until the last few months of the season, where he just like, that's our guy. Where is he mentally going into this season?
I believe he is mentally very well, very comfortable. He had a pretty chill summer. He spent most of it in Seattle, really getting to know the area, a lot of hiking, a lot of time in nature and stuff. I think he mentally is ready to go. That's what he'll tell you. But also, of course, that's what he will tell me. And that's what he will tell the media. He's everybody be like, oh, not sure. Not feeling my best, you know.
Feeling a little shaky, guys.
They don't really say that, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
you know, so don't take mine or his word for it, I guess. I don't know.
How's he looking? I mean, does he look good to you?
I would say he's looked better in camp than in the actual preseason games, in my opinion. But also it's just preseason too, you know, and they're not even really playing their normal system in preseason. They're not playing the special teams that you will see when they actually take the ice. So, and other teams aren't either. It's not just that, you know, they're not facing the lethal Oilers power play unit in preseason, right? So, but I think it seems like his like puck control has been very good and his puck play has been very good. But some of, in my opinion, what he's been letting in preseason is like, maybe not what you love to see. But in camp, he's looked great, and I'm not worried about it. I don't think anybody is worried about it. I don't think there's not a question mark about his spot on this team. So, and he's earned that, frankly. Like Jeff, like you mentioned, like the work that he put in at the end of the season and the way he was, you know, he can do it. So, I think it's only wise to have the utmost faith in Philip Grubauer.
Yeah, you just like you see it, you can't react like we can react, but on social media, I mean, Greu was the most polarizing player on the Seattle Kraken, is, you know, for the most part, goaltending across the league and every level of hockey is, but it went very quiet towards the end of the regular season and went very quiet into the playoffs, obviously. And that was nice to just have. And I also I also saw that he just like last week, he tapped the kegs for Oktoberfest in Seattle. He probably has a closet full of lederhosen that he has not been able to wear. That was the perfect occasion. So
he cares about Seattle as a city and a community a lot. Yeah. And I think he makes that very known. He talks about it. He gets out. He's always willing to do stuff like that, like at fan events and stuff like that. He's very real. He's very, very real. And one more thing I wanted to say too, that really I started thinking about more as I was covering the Mariners this summer. I think some folks who aren't super familiar with professional hockey may look at a goaltender and give them more or less credit than maybe they deserve. That's not an original thought from me. However, it's like, think about a baseball season. If you only played half the games, but you had to put out basically the same pitcher every single night.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm just something to consider. Like, there's a reason there's a bullpen, right? And the schedule is different, games very different. But when you think about that level of physically how you have to execute, mentally how you have to execute every freaking night, like, this is their job and they get well compensated for it. So it's not a sympathy train, but I just think there's a little bit of maybe a perspective to add to people's perception of goaltending in the National Hockey League.
Could not agree more. I have to say that's something that Jeff and I have been beating the drum on. I mean, basically since we started the podcast, when the organization started, and you know way more about this than we do, but like, we also watch every single regular season game. And then last year, also the playoff games as well. And when you watch every single game, you see, I mean, you pay attention to a lot more, right? So like if the Kraken lose and they lose, 4-1, but you're watching the game and you're like, well, the defense was horrible and they left him out to dry multiple times and they gave away all these breakaways. And then you just have people going off like, oh, this Grubauer, look at his save percentage. It's like, dude, I challenge you to watch as much hockey as I would say but like you do. And when you do that, like you said, perspective really is everything. So I would just challenge people out there that get on their ass about it. Watch more hockey. I promise you it'll change your perception a little bit.
Yeah. And again, it is goaltenders' jobs. Like, I'm not discrediting it.
Also
That's
agree.
what you get paid to do.
Yes.
But it's not solely your responsibility to win and lose games for your team, so
Both things can be true.
anybody
Yep, absolutely.
who's not had a puck ever fly at their face, I don't have a ton of sympathy for your feelings.
Yes.
Never had that, so I'm out. Yeah.
I'm just kidding, but
I
I just mean, like, it's a hard job, okay?
Yeah, I would not want that job. It'd be freaking terrifying. You kidding me?
Preseason, lay off Greu.
Yeah.
No, I've played goal and rec a few times, and I've got guys shooting pucks at me at 30 miles an hour, and I'm going, oh my god, I'm gonna die. And then,
even blocking shots, like even guys in the NHL, they hate Adam Larson. Blocking shots, king, right?
Yeah,
still doesn't like to do it. Like, it's not fun.
No,
no, it is not. No, it is not.
Anyway.
Anything completely random that surprised you when you got back into, Climate Pledge and got back into, like, did somebody show up with green hair? Was there somebody who was somehow a foot taller? Did somebody roll in a Maybach? Anything? Did Vince? How big was Vince Dunn's money truck that backed up?
I don't know. Vince looks exactly the same and seems like
Good.
I saw him yesterday. I will say, Shane Wright, clearly, physically, and in terms of his presence, looks, sounds, feels different. I think on the ice, but also just like in the locker room, in interviews. I always thought that he was exceptionally mature and professional. Like, how he speaks and handles himself. He's clearly actually a smart kid, like genuinely smart, and very thoughtful. But I saw even another level of that in early interactions. Also, just he clearly was in the gym. He clearly has been focusing on growing himself, his body, his game this summer. Like, he's locked in. He's not messing around, which that's great. That's exactly what the coaching staff and Ron Francis said that they wanted from him. So I would say that was, after not seeing him for a couple months, I was like, whoa, Shane has clearly put in the work, like mentally, emotionally, and physically. I hadn't seen Chris Drgs in so long, obviously. Seeing him in person, he clearly has been in the gym, and as well, he looks, I don't know exactly how, but his build looks different as well. So I don't know
That's awesome
what he's doing, but his build looked different. But otherwise, nobody dyed their hair that I know of.
JT's got some new hair. It looks great. He's always got great hair going on.
Yeah, he's got that blue in his hair. Yeah, JT's the one to do something crazy with his hair.
That's true.
I'm trying to think. I don't think anybody else made any major.
That's
Turbo,
good.
Turbo's still got, his vibe going.
He still, hey, look, he can't change it. Can't change the look. He just can't. He's locked. If anybody's locked into a look, it's Turbo. But it's good to hear about Drgs because, I like to hear maybe there's some more muscle that can, like, keep things in place. You know what I mean? So, like, protecting that hopefully there's no injury, right, that's in there. And then on Shane Wright too is like, yeah, when he's so young, you forget, like, again,
he's so mature though. Like, it's crazy. I talked to other players on this team and other teams who are 4 years older than him and aren't as well spoken as he seems to be, or as he's able to be. I mean, it's noticeable. Even it was before though as well. Even last year it was like, whoa, you don't have to worry about him doing media, or he's smart. And then he was even smarter in, like, his presence, even just how he sits, how he gestures. It's like, this is a smart man. He's a kid, but he's a man. And it was very clear. So
I'm glad you said that, because, like, when he, even last year, and then coming into this year, I did see him, and, like, you could tell his man strength showed up. Like, he has matured,
and in his energy as well, which I think is important on the ice and in the locker room and in the league. So
he learned so much, playing with the Firebirds and stuff, and he just crushed it. I was gonna say, we haven't talked much about Vince Dunn, and I don't want to keep you too much longer, but Vince Dunn. So much was talked about how his offseason last season was different, and that just led to his breakout season and led to this awesome contract with the Kraken. He's the Dundertaker, which we've got to make our t-shirts for that. I know he's not into that nickname, but we're going to make it happen. But, like, he's easily one of my favorite Kraken players. He's been since day one. I can say that. Has he continued, right? Like there's people probably on other teams that are waiting to say, oh yeah, well, he got paid and then he got lazy. But like, did he keep that same regimen? Did he learn from that offseason from, an offseason ago? And how does he look? I know he just hit the ice today. He was skating around. How does he look? Have you had much time with him? You said you'd spoken to him. Like where is he at? Is he going to come in and build upon last season? Like what's he thinking and what's he looking like?
I know that he is so thrilled that they were able to get a deal that everyone is happy about. He's very happy to be here. Like even on media day, he was lots of smiles. He's really happy to be here and to get to be here for that long, to make that kind of a commitment and to have the team make that commitment. So I think that's great. To the point of, can you be lazy? That could happen. I don't know. They haven't played really any real games, but I don't get the vibe that he thinks, oh, now I got this contract and I'm going to chill. He's also a highly competitive person and player,
Yes.
like even with himself. I also think Adam Larson would not let him slack. Simply. I think that they're both very committed to playing for each other, also for the whole team at large. But those two are like the bedrock of the defense and obviously really of the team. Frankly, those two are so important to the team's success. I don't think that Vince tapers off by any means at all. I don't have any reason to think that he would. And I think he looked great from what we saw of him, and hopefully he is okay, because as people may know, he wasn't practicing. They said it was just kind of a maintenance day, but he was on the ice today, so hopefully he's okay. We didn't see anything and get any updates. So as far as I'm aware, he's going to be ready to go. And I believe that, and I'm going to believe that until proven otherwise.
There's so many questions to ask you, but we want to get to a couple other things, and then we'll let you go. I wanted to ask you a couple of just general NHL things. Lightning round. If you got an answer, great. If you don't, all good. Number one, is Connor Bedard a lock for the Calder Trophy?
It could seem that way. However, I think the competition he's up against is not anything to be taken lightly. And no disrespect to Matty winning that award last year by any means. I would say some of the competition that Matty had, though, is not quite as intense as the players that are up for it potentially this year, like Adam Fantilli, Logan Cooley. Like Connor Bedard is obviously insane and sickening, but those two are too. And so I don't know that I would say he's a lock, because I also think he's going to get more attention than some of these other guys. He's going to be judged harder than some of these other guys, which could be unfair. He could get more attention, though, too. He could get it purely just from more eyeballs on him versus others. But I don't know. I think, like, in terms of on-ice production, I know he's insane, but there's a couple other kids who could be really challenging him in terms of points and production, which can very much matter. It does, obviously. It's not just about points, but that's a big piece of it. So I don't know if I would say he's a lock. I just think he has great competition. I think he's obviously freaking insane, but these other, even Brian Dumoulin, when I was talking to him the other day, one of the new defensemen on the Kraken, I asked him if there's anybody in the league that like he really likes to watch and just for fun. And most of the players were saying things like, oh, obviously Connor McDavid, I love to watch, or Nathan McKinnon, whatever. But he goes, Adam Fantilli. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay, let's hear it. He's like, I just watch these young kids and the way that they can create and how they create so far up the ice, you don't even realize that they're creating yet. And he's like, and for me as a veteran defenseman, and he joked, he's like, I'm getting old and slowing down. He's like, I have to watch players like that and think about how do I defend that? That's what he said. He's like, I look at Adam Fantilli and I think, how do I have to change my game to defend that? And I think if you got 2-time Stanley Cup winning Chris Letang's defense partner for life, Brian Dumoulin, watching your highlights saying, how am I going to defend that this season? That's a testament. No disrespect to Connor Bedard, but I don't know. It should be fun. Good rookie crop.
Yeah, good. And I'm going to say this too about Maddie's crop is I think in like 5 years, it's going to be Matty Beniers and Owen Power. I think Owen Power is that dude's going to be a force, and he just was he was a force last year, but he's going to be big time this year. Okay, so that's good. All right, so who is your which, by the way, too, this is something that annoyed me a lot last year. Is it's like it's all the media outlets, the big media, because they're so coast biased. It's like, oh, East Coast, and we just it was all year long. It was like East Coast. Oh man, this is so good. The Eastern Conference is so good. And then, how many NHL, like how many Stanley Cups have they won recently? Not many. So I ask you this: is like, who is your sneaky? Is there a sneaky team in the West that you're looking at that maybe wasn't in the playoffs last year that could be a surprise? Or maybe the flip-flop, somebody who's like, oh, they're going to be just another lock for the playoffs that's going to fall out. Do you have a sneaky prediction that way?
I will say I don't know if they're going to be a lock, but I think Calgary is going to be a lot better this year than they were last year. And they had kind of a weird year last year anyway, but I don't think they're to be counted
Daryl
out.
Sutter.
Yes. So I don't think that they're to be counted out. I also would say I don't think they're going to be a threat, but the Arizona Coyotes did upgrade. Like they did upgrade, and they have some good young talent.
They're frisky.
Yeah, and they got Matt Dumba back there. I don't know. I love Matt Dumba though, so maybe I'm just biased thinking, wow, they're going to be great now. But you can take the girl out of Minnesota, but I still am going to be a little bit familiar, Anyway, so I think that they could be sneakily entertaining at least to watch, given how the Coyotes have been for a long time. I also think, the Kings are always a threat, so I would go with that. I'm curious about what Boston is going to look like for sure. Also, the Caps last year missing the playoffs is obviously very odd and kind of an anomaly, and I don't think that Tom Wilson and Alex Ovechkin plan to do that again. No. I highly doubt that's in their playbook for the season, so I don't know if that's a surprise, but I think they could very well be back.
No, I agree with you. I like the Coyotes pick there because they're not going to be the stomping.
I don't think they're going to make it, but I think they should be theoretically.
They're a hard
better.
out. Yeah, they're a team you play on a Wednesday night, and then you're next thing you know, you're down 2-0, and it's early in the third. You're like, wait, what the hell's happening right now? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the Ducks and the Sharks maybe have even slipped more than they were, but I think Arizona might be on the up a little bit. So.
Yeah, at least the Coyotes can.
I wish they were in our division, but
I know, right? The Coyotes can easily say at least they're going to be finishing higher than the Sharks and the Ducks.
How about Vegas goes to Central? We take Arizona into the Pacific.
It's not right. It's
Batman, really... Gary.
Yeah,
you listening?
Oh, we know him. We'll call him for you. Don't worry.
Yeah, totally. I'll send him a text right now. That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. But you did. I think. You said the Detroit Red Wings were going to make the playoffs, right? Is that what I heard you say? I think that was.
No, don't let them do this to you, Piper. You can shoot him down at any moment.
I don't know. They're odd. I never really know what to make of them. To be honest,
the eyes are playing.
They're kind of like the Jets. I'm like, they could definitely beat us, but they also could be really good and not make the playoffs, or they could be not that good and make the playoffs. You know what I mean? They both those teams give me that vibe.
Like an anomaly on skates. Yeah.
Just the intuition. I don't know.
Just have
purely a vibe check.
Look, as a Detroit native who lived through arguably the greatest 26-year run of just, being before the Kraken showed up, that being my team, just remember I think the GM parallels there between Steve Yzerman and Ron Francis, both storied NHL players, and so far storied NHL GMs. I think Ron Francis has got the lead on Stevie Y right now, but I think Stevie Y, and I don't know why I'm looking at my two hands on the table right now.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing right now?
I'm like, Stevie Y. I'm like,
talking robots?
Yeah. So I think that the Red Wings are going to sneak on in there. So, okay. But the only other prediction I have is that the Kraken officially will beat the Golden Knights on opening night. So that's really. That's my biggest one right there.
I predict that the Carolina Hurricanes will be a force to be reckoned with.
Oh yeah. I kind of want them.
Surprising to no one, but
I kind of want them just to this because they've just been so good for so long, and I really want them just to jump into that next realm and get that cup. And I would be really happy for that team. It's a likable team.
I disagree, but that's okay.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I think rewarding success is good.
I like that.
And I'm also very glad that we got Ron and John Forsland in our organization.
I know. That's God, John Ford. I cannot wait for hockey to hear all
Treasures.
y'all doing your thing. Like, I can't wait just to have that, like the Kraken, the Root Sports broadcast. I'm ready for that. Okay, so I'm gonna have to ask you this: is so many interesting things. You share so much on on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it now. And it's always cool to kind of see like what you're doing in your personal life. One thing caught my eye recently was your I've never seen this movie list. You and your husband are on this tear to you made is that right? You made a list where these are like the 10 or 20 movies that you both have never seen before.
He has seen, so they're all movies I have not seen.
Okay.
He has not seen most of them, but he has seen some of them.
Okay.
But most of the ones he'd seen like Interstellar. He's seen some of those like 2012-ish realm Matt Damon kind of movies, Leo kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
they're not classics.
Yeah.
Okay, most of them aren't really classics, but
True.
they're not modern classics. You know what I'm saying?
They're must-sees.
Like,
Steph and I, listen, we have. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say he hasn't seen any of them that were like released before like 2005, probably.
Okay, Jeff and I were so excited about you sharing this that we called each other and we're talking about movies. And I was like, how has she never seen Pulp Fiction? And I was like, are we getting that old? Like, we need to talk about this. And and they were like, we got to talk to Piper about these movies that she hasn't seen.
So where are you in the list? Like how, I mean, I know you're heading into the season.
And reactions to Pulp Fiction. Like, let's hear it. Let's go.
Okay. First, I would just like to preface this. If anyone hasn't seen the list, feel free to go to my Twitter, my X, find the list. I basically have not seen anything by like Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino or all these like really award-winning films. I will say though, I had a very odd childhood, as some are aware. And my dad is literally the definition of a contrarian. Like when I was growing up, my dad used to say, Bruce Springsteen is incredibly overrated. I would never go see him in concert. I'm not kidding. This is who I was raised by. Like he, like I told him the other day, I was like, I've been really enjoying Tom Petty because I'm like discovering all these things that were like super essential to like his generation, which is not old, because my dad refused to expose us to them because he just thinks anything popular is bad. That is who my father is.
Okay.
So, and my parents were divorced and I basically didn't have any media at all 50% of the time. So I only know things that my weirdo contrarian dad showed me, right? Okay. So baseline, that's why I haven't seen any of them, because he didn't want to watch them. We just didn't watch them. And also when I was a teenager, some of these films are like really heavy or really violent or obviously mostly starring men, about men's stories, So when I was a teenage girl, I wasn't like, I'm really going to go watch whatever, some of these violent films, right? Like, so anyways, that's why I haven't seen them.
That's true.
And I've spent pretty much my whole adult life working, genuinely, like really grinding, frankly, me and my husband. We don't even really watch movies. So anyways, yes, we're getting into movies. We watched Moneyball the other night. That was way better than I thought it was going to be. I knew like the story, which is why I didn't really think I was going to like it. And I don't super care for Brad Pitt. So I was like, but it was good. We both really enjoyed it. Pulp Fiction, loved Pulp Fiction. That's my exact kind of film that I like though. I like something super campy. I like weird, dark stuff in general, which also people don't really seem to think that about me unless you follow me online. Then you're probably aware of that.
You didn't have that. That's why you love that stuff. You didn't have that when you were a kid.
Yeah. Well, no, that is what I had. I grew up going to punk rock shows. I was wearing ties to school, dyeing my hair black.
That's okay. Yes.
Yeah, I was a weirdo. Anyway.
So you never saw.
So if your dad is if everything that's popular is bad, and you're a Swiftie, is he anti Taylor Swift? What's his take on this? Because she's the biggest star in the world. So where's he at with that? Is it a point of contention?
Okay, multiple things here. I was not a Swiftie when I was in high school and middle school. I didn't have the vibe of I'm not like other girls, but I don't like country music, and I still don't. And she made country music. I also married the only boyfriend I ever had. I was not a child interested in dating whatsoever. I didn't really care about boys. So country breakup songs for 15-year-old girls was not for me. I was listening to Taking Back Sunday and My Chemical Romance, like legitimately. So it just wasn't appealing to me until I got older and her music matured and her sound matured. And particularly, I love Jack Antonoff and I have for forever. he started producing her music, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is now for me. So I am a late transition Swiftie, is my point. My dad sent me one of her songs like 3 weeks ago. It's from like, I think it was from Reputation. He's like, this is a good song. And I was like, oh, Dad, imagine that. The most famous pop star in the world has a couple good songs. Like, oh, like I'm like, oh, go tell the cavalry you found a good Taylor Swift song. Like, cool. No one cares. Just like the other day when I started listening to Tom Petty, he goes, you could do worse. That was his reaction.
Oh my Lord.
He's like, you could do worse. I'm like, okay, bye. Anyway, he's himself. So
it's amazing.
Anyway.
Is awesome. There's so many different ways to go on this.
He loves Star Wars though. That's the other kicker. Like we were a Star Wars, a comic book, punk rock family. Like I was wearing Rancid t-shirts in 3rd grade. I got kicked out of school one time for wearing a band t-shirt that my dad got me from a Less Than Jake concert because it had like cigarettes on it. Anyways, like this is I don't know. It's just bizarre. Anyway, we're watching the movies. We've loved everything that we've watched so far. So, which is only like 3.
You're also I also wrote down. I got to go back and revisit all these bands on Spotify. So on your list from the 27th, you've seen Pulp Fiction, you've seen Moneyball, but nothing else. You haven't seen anything else on this list that you tweeted. Let
me double check this really quick. Hold music.
Because I'm wondering, like, all right, so growing up.
We watched.
Go ahead.
We watched Good Will Hunting.
That's you didn't know that Matt Damon co-wrote it with Ben Affleck, and that the main character's name was Will. I was mind blown that you.
I didn't even know that Robin Williams was in the movie. That's the other thing. Did you guys see it? I thought that Donnie Darko was that duck.
Darkwing Duck.
Yeah, I legitimately thought that was him.
So Darko really took a turn. When's the duck showing up?
Yeah, and then my stepmom sent me like the movie poster, and I was like, oh. But I'm like, that looks like something I actually would probably really like.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you resonate with like the darker, weirder stuff, Donnie Darko was right up your alley.
And what's funny is that on the list of like films that you must see, I've seen most of like the thrillers. I've seen like every Stephen King movie. Like I watched The Shining on repeat when I was like 10.
Wow.
Like I loved the original Stephen King. It. Yes. Silence of the Lambs, I watched all the time.
Jeez.
Yeah, like that's the kind of thing I watched as a child. I don't know what that means.
It's in your Rancid t-shirt, just binging Silence
literally,
of the Lambs.
Yeah. So anyways,
Yeah. I think with the Good Will Hunting thing, the reason why that blows our mind is because we grew up when that movie. I was like a teenager. When did that come out? Like late 90s?
Yeah, it was 1997, which is a year after I was born. So just
that's when I graduated high school.
Maddie asked me today. Matty Beniers asked me today. Goes, how old are you, Piper? And I go, I'm 27. I just turned 27. He goes, oh. And I was like, why? And he goes, I don't know. I didn't know how old I thought you were. I thought you were maybe younger, but maybe definitely older.
Whoa. Oh, what a rookie move.
That's something a 20-year-old would say, Maddie.
Yeah. I went to college with Will Borgen and Jimmy Schultz, who's Coachella Valley Firebird and part of the Kraken training camp still at this point in time. And I was like, and Maddie was like, you guys didn't go to college together. And I was like, yes, we did. He goes, at the same time? I was like, yes, at the same time, Maddie.
Dude.
Oh, anyway, he's such a 20-year-old. Oh, man.
He was like, I guess I really didn't know how old you were.
Take him aside, Piper.
No, he meant it really. He completely said it very kindly and professionally. He just really didn't. I could tell he didn't know. He was confused.
You've got to be the person that makes the impact. I've had a lot of these people in my life that have taken me aside and said, hey, just so you know, it's probably not cool if you reference age with women at all. Like you got to play, this is how you kind of pull him aside and do that for him, because I've had that happen numerous times, not with that specific thing. Although actually probably with that specific thing. But I
think it was just because the context. Because he was like, wait, you did all go to college together at the same time? And then he was like, I guess I didn't know if I thought you were older or younger. He didn't really know, which is fine. I don't care.
Right.
Either way.
Wait, did you just finish college? Like, wait, how old are you? Like, you should have just thrown it right back. Yeah. Like, wait, what are we talking about?
He didn't mean it oddly as well. He was genuinely wait, what? You were all there at the same time? I'm like, yeah.
I don't know. I think, listening to you and like learning about you, getting to know you, and then also like the Kraken team. I'm arguably, I think, the most wholesome NHL hockey team and media team is got to be the Seattle Kraken. Like just wholesome, good people that really just like trying to be the best people they can be. Really, like obviously we talked a little bit earlier about them caring about the organization, and like who's in the organization. I don't know. I just think everything around the Kraken is just like, this is wholesome, just a wholesome conversation about movies you haven't, movies that you've never seen before that everybody else has seen. So
yeah, I will say I got no excuse for not having seen E.T. That's kind of a tough one.
I didn't like that movie. It's a crappy movie.
That feels like I don't, like I said, a lot of these, it's like The Godfather, everything Tarantino, Shawshank Redemption, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Those are all movies I have not seen, but they're not particularly movies that you would go out of your way to show a young woman on her own either, So I think the context kind of excuses it, but not really.
No, it kind of does.
Watch
no one's sitting down, on like a Wednesday night for like Shawshank Redemption and popcorn. You know what I'm saying?
Like my dad wasn't like, "Oh, Piper, you really need to go watch Full Metal Jacket." You know what? Legitimately though.
We'll just sit down and throw it on. Yeah. This is my gun. Yeah.
And we'll wrap this up, but you got to go Raiders of the Lost Ark. You've got to go, I think, No Country for Old Men. I think you've got to go. Snatch is awesome. I love that movie.
Lebowski is one we got to watch soon.
Oh man, if you like quirky and weird and just kind of Big Lebowski is really, really, really going to like, y'all are going to freaking love that movie.
Yeah. My husband gets harassed by his coworkers a lot for having not seen these movies. They'll be like, "Oh, you don't know this old," and it's some comedy that has really outdated, jokes that he doesn't think is funny anymore. And he's like, "No, and I don't want to." But that's one we've been told is like legitimately watch it. It's not just like corny. So
no, you're gonna love it. And I hope that when you do watch it, you share it. And Jeff, I have to say something really quick going off of like the wholesome thing that you mentioned with the Kraken. So Piper, if you don't mind, we would love to do the no dumb questions this week with you because it's something that like Jeff and I can only attest to. We can only attest to so much, but it does have to do with the organization being wholesome, but something that I know you've experienced. So if that's cool with you, we'd love to do no dumb questions with you this week.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, sweet. All right, so this one, sorry, Jack, go ahead.
I was going to explain to you. This is what happens on the show is when other podcasts out there, they act like they know everything, and if their fans write to them and they ask a question, they get shamed because they're expected to know everything. But we're the podcast for people who may be new to hockey and should not be ashamed to ask any question. So on our show, there's no dumb questions whatsoever. So we invite anybody to ask. Except for what is icing. We still don't know how to explain it.
Please stop asking me for the love of God.
Don't ask about that. But anyway, so Joey, for Piper Shaw, what is this week's no dumb question?
Excuse me.
All right, this week's no dumb question comes from Kendall Appel, and she sent it to us from Instagram. And the question is, so her family has been attending training camp the past week. So this is like a week ago. And it got her wondering, it feels like fans have a lot of access to the Kraken relative to other sports teams with open practices, community events, running into players at the Iceplex, etc. Especially when they go there to do some ice skating, they've ran into players. She wants to know, is this a hockey thing or a Kraken thing? And she also sent some really cool photos. Her 8-year-old daughter actually had a chance to meet Shane Wright, and Shane Wright stopped and chatted with her daughter for several minutes. And now her 8-year-old daughter is a lifelong hockey fan, Shane Wright fan. So she wants to know, like, is this a hockey thing in general, or is this a Seattle Kraken organization, a very, very intentional thing?
I actually would say it is both. Not every NHL franchise is like that, but there are many that are. Like, I know growing up, I had the same thing with the Minnesota Wild. Like, that's not necessarily uncommon. It's not uncommon to have your practice facility, especially during training camp, be open to the public. I will say, though, that the Kraken are and always have been very intentional about getting their players into spaces with fans where they can meet them and take photos. And it's not rocket science. Obviously, it's very important to the organization that people like their players and that they get to know them as a new team and, get invested in the guys and in their success. So that just makes sense. But it is actually also something that is, I think, both important to the players, but the team as well. Like when Brandon Tanev had his bobblehead giveaway last year, he literally not stole, but took boxes of his bobblehead and brought them to the Armory, which is kind of like not a pregame spot, but a spot where you can go before the game, kind of by Climate Pledge Arena, and was handing them out to people. I think it was the day after the game that they gave them away, I believe. But he like took a bunch ahead of time, and he just went there just by himself and was handing them out and meeting people. He was also very excited about his bobblehead, as understandably so, of course.
Yeah.
But I think the players genuinely like doing it too. And I think that they make an effort to do it a lot during training camp because they have a little bit more time and effort and energy and can give people more time and conversation when you're not grinding, obviously, and exhausted. So I would say it's both. It's not like it's unheard of in other teams. That's relatively common, but I think the level that they try to take it to is uncommon.
It seems that way. And everything about the Kraken, just love it. Just so excited for this season. Every single offseason, it takes me a little while to get ready for hockey season, to be fired up about it. And it's like, it started this week. It really started to hit. Like last couple of weeks, I was like, you know what? I don't know. And then the rabid hockey fandom is coming back. So I'm excited for the new season. Joey's excited for the new season. We're excited to see you on Root Sports and watch what you're doing, and the entire Root Sports team. Y'all crush it. You've definitely earned those Emmys. More are on the way. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us, especially since you grind so much. Remember, take care of yourself, do the yoga, make sure you get some good food, take care of yourself. We need some Piper Shaw in our lives for a while with the Seattle Kraken. So
thank you. I appreciate that very much. It's a big goal for me in the on-season.
Eat food.
Yeah.
I feel like
I didn't have an
grandma.
off-season goal, but I have an on-season goal. So
okay. That's right. I'm like your grandpa. Like, Piper, eat some food. No. Eat something.
My freaking boss was like, he was like, no offense, but come on, like, take care of yourself. Like, what are you doing? He was like, you can take a day off. Like, it's fine. I'm like, nope, gotta grind.
Yeah.
Well,
the players are taking days off. It's their job too.
That's true. But then you should totally weaselly say, hey, look, boss, the players get all their food made for them and ready to go. Where's mine? Come on.
We need that treatment.
No. It's totally different. Anyways, happy to be here. Thanks for the love.
All right, let's go Kraken. Awesome. Thank you so much, Piper.